This war stops now.
You are tired of the war. I can see on your face.
End the war. Bring freedom to our people.
Welcome to the Stop Listen Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie. Good evening. How are y'all doing? This is about 4, oh wow, it's actually 4:20 here on Sunday. Sundays can be a little rough in the world of a single. Talk to some loved ones always helps. I went to church yesterday, so I didn't go again today. Probably could have done me some good.
Oh, God! It is so good to see you. What are you doing for dinner?
Something else.
I'm having steak and leftover shrimp scampi. That's how I'm going to roll tonight. Dinner for one. So we've got some political news. Storming out the gate. DeSantis suspends his presidential bid and endorses Trump.
We have this breaking news and the huge revelation that sources tell Ron DeSantis is ending his campaign for president. We're going to go right now to Dasha Burns in Manchester, who's tracking the campaign. Dasha, tell us more. What have you been told specifically about this?
Well, look, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis just tweeted moments ago saying success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. That is a quote from Winston Churchill. Alex, we talked just earlier today wondering about what these last-minute moves were, going from South Carolina, making this last-minute pivot to New Hampshire, and here you have it, suspending his campaign that has been fraught from the beginning, literally from the launch, when, if you recall, that Twitter Spaces launch with Elon Musk that was marred by technical glitches and failures. And really, from the beginning, this guy
disaster
that was supposed to be the next standard bearer for the Republican Party, that so many looked to as the person who could potentially beat Donald Trump, then found himself in a race for second place with Nikki Haley. He's been saying for the last several weeks that he's in it for the long haul, that he was going to South Carolina, but we've been talking about the realities of that, which is you got to have the finances, the resources to do that, and a pathway forward. And in all of my conversations recently with him, with his team, they really struggled to articulate what that pathway was going to be, how he could make that case. And here we are at the end of this saga that, again, we had seen somebody who really struggled to find a message, to find a footing, to find a way to deal with former President Trump. And in the end of the day, former President Trump...
I mean, this is just parodying something else I've heard, but it's accurate, that he was hoping to peel off some Trump supporters, but he was never going to get enough to give him a faction. And then he was too Trump-like to get much of the anti-Trump Republicans to go for him either. So he just needed to wait his turn. Maybe in 4 years, we have a Vivek presidency with Sarah Huckabee Sanders as vice president. Ron DeSantis could be attorney general. We'll have Jocko staying there as Secretary of Defense if he's willing. He could also be president, I'd be okay with that too.
A lot of it has to do with his lack of ability to connect with voters. It's a personality problem. It's that and or strategic mistakes within his campain. With your dealings following this campaign...
He's a weird guy. He's antisocial, but that's fine. I mean, I know that's what we're told is a winning feature of a president. He can be weird. I don't give a shit. Just be one hell of a president. Be a policy wonker, just get it done. I don't need to be your buddy. I mean, shit, if you would have kissed the ring a month ago and bowed out, he'd be by Trump's side. And he can rebound very quickly. All he does is got to kiss Trump's ass. I would like to do a further breakdown of the DeSantis debacle. I kind of want to break this down, but let's see. I've already got January 15th. Okay, so 5 days ago. So those of you who think that Trump is the second coming of Hitler, this may upset you. This may throw you off. So I just be prepared.
But we made it. I hope everybody's having a good time. Tomorrow's a big day, I think, for our country. I want to thank Governor Burgum. Hello, everybody. That's a little bit slippery out there, but we made it. I hope everybody's having a good time. Tomorrow's a big day, I think, for our country. I want to thank Governor Burgum. Thank you very much. It's such an honor. We just had a very nice endorsement, and we're honored by it. And he's a very respected man. That's a very respected family in North Dakota. And you've been a great governor, I will tell you. So I very much appreciate it. And a great first lady. Great. Even better. Even better. So thank you, everybody. And as you can see, there's been tremendous enthusiasm. And I think we're going to do very well tomorrow, despite the weather.
Best you'll ever have, sir.
Thank you, man.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
A lot of pizza.
I'm not seeing a lot of Nazi salutes.
I have some too.
It's probably they probably just edited it out, but President Trump, everybody. So preceding the just breaking DeSantis news was immediately after the Iowa caucus, and Vivek came in like 8%. I think he was hoping to do a lot better.
We've looked at it every which way, and I think it is true that we did not achieve the surprise that we wanted to deliver tonight. And I think that that's just a hard fact that we're going to have to accept as a campaign. And the question then is, what do we do that is right for our country?
The night of the Iowa caucus, he had tentative plans to go on Tim Pool's podcast, and because of this, he ended up bailing.
We actually didn't make this contingency plan before everybody told us to. We said, no, we're not doing that. But we talked about it tonight. We took a little bit of time in our apartment in Des Moines before coming here to make some hard choices. And I wanted to make a couple of announcements tonight to get the business out of the way. And then I want to tell you where we're going. As of this moment, we are going to suspend this presidential campaign. And this is going to have to be, there is no path for me to be the next president absent things that we don't want to see happen in this country. And I think that I am very worried for our country. I think we are skating on thin ice as a nation. We have done everything in our part to make, and done, every one of us in this room has done our part to save this country. And I am so proud of every one of you who have lifted us up. But we're a campaign founded on the truth. And so that's why we've made that decision today. And I'm also making the decision that this has to be an America First candidate in that White House. As I've said since the beginning, there are two America First candidates in this race. And earlier tonight, I called Donald Trump to tell him that I congratulated him on his victory. And now going forward, he will have my full endorsement for the presidency.
So the next day,
back with the people of the great state of New Hampshire, with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots, which is what you are. As you know, last night we had a record-setting evening in Iowa. What a great place that is, too. The largest margin of victory in GOP history. Is that good? Is that good? He has a big, beautiful, bright future ahead. Vivek Ramaswamy. Come on up, Vivek.
We're going to make this happen, and you guys know this well. You know this man. You know why we're here. Patriots across the state. We are in the middle of a war in this country. That's what this is. It's not a war between black and white. It's not between Democrat and Republican, even in a deeper sense.
I think maybe Trump's learned who to listen to this time. That we will see with his vice presidential pick. You also seen this.
South Carolina Republican Senator Tim Scott is endorsing former President Donald Trump's presidential bid.
The former Republican presidential candidate ended his campaign back in November. Last month, Scott said he did not have plans to endorse anyone in the race anytime soon. The senator is rumored to be among the potential picks to be Trump's running mate.
Let's bring in Matt Gorman now. He is the former senior advisor for Tim Scott's now suspended presidential campaign. Good to have you back with us, Matt. So the big question, why is he endorsing former President Trump right now? Is he interested in the VP job?
I mean,
look, I don't work for Senator Scott anymore. I have no inside information on that. But what I will say is, look, I think this is an attractive endorsement for President Trump to have.
It's fine.
He loves the state of New Hampshire too. You know, I know he spent a lot of time in Iowa. That was where we, I think, we put a lot of our resources in the campaign. But New Hampshire was a place that he went up and really kind of fell in love with in a lot of respects. So he is somebody who I think has a connection to people in New Hampshire. So I'm not surprised to see him
for Donald Trump to pick Tim Scott. Either one, South Carolina would have to be in question for him. I think it is. So then, does Tim Scott get you women? Nope. Does Tim Scott get you black people? Maybe a smidge. I just like Vivek is really going to get out there and motivate people, like, because he's that type of speaker. Tim Scott could host Rainbow, like he may have. I'm not sure. I never looked into his background. I don't remember that guy's name, but Donald Trump 2024. If he's not in prison or assassinated, or just left off the ballot by the RNC, if he actually gets on the ballot and we have somewhat of a free and fair election, which I'm sure we do because we always do. There's no one who does free and fair elections better than the United States if you look at it historically. I mean, any local library, you can find buckets of information about the free and fair elections that happen every single time here. Who is Trump's VP pick? Who should it be? Now, I've said Kristi Noem. I've said repeatedly that Kristi Noem should be the VP pick. I think I've changed on that. Now, she'd be my second pick. I don't think that's changed. But there's been so much talk of Vivek. And as we played Glenn back, apparently he suggested Vivek, and so has many other people. So should it be Vivek? No, it should not be. I want not only to Trump to be able to get into the White House, but if he does, to have the best cabinet possible. You gotta have both. Because he gets in there and he has a shit show like he did last time, then what's the point? So how does he get in there without Kristi Noem? Well, I'll show you. Tulsi Gabbard spoke at America Fest 2023. Tulsi Gabbard spoke at America Fest 2023, which is Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's thing. His
Aloha
thing.
Wow, it is so awesome to be here with all of you. I hear this is the first year that AmFest has had people here from all 50 states. So we got some Hawaii in the crowd here. You know, time is the most precious thing that any one of us has to give. And so it means a lot that all of you have taken the time out of your lives to come and gather here today to address the very timely and urgent mission that we have before us.
So, Tulsi Gabbard is my pick for Trump's VP. I don't want to see her as president, which would makes her a pretty stupid VP pick by my own standards. And being that Trump is very old and they're trying to put him in prison, you just never know how the tides could turn. They could impeach him again, and maybe they could actually get him out on the third go-round. Then we would be left with Tulsi. I guarantee there's a lot of things with Tulsi I vehemently disagree with. I don't think she's a big fan of war. So that's ideal. Now, Tulsi Gabbard, as you can see here, if you can see here on the screen, Tulsi Gabbard is a 4-term congresswoman from Hawaii. She was in the U.S. Army Reserves. She ran for president. She's the one who famously took out Kamala with her debate performance. Now, she has since left the Democratic Party. She is very well loved by Joe Rogan. And I know she's cool with Jocko Willick as well. The libertarians like her. Liberals like her. Imagine Tulsi Gabbard as vice president. And with her experience, actually putting her in charge of the border. With expectations that that's her job. But that's post-election. What does she do for you pre-election? Well, as I said, Joe Rogan and his millions of listeners are going to hear the praise of her. You're going to have liberals come over. You're going to have Democrats come over. You're going to have women come over and vote for Trump when they normally would have. She is the pick. What I like most about what picking Tulsi for VP would do, it would help destroy the Republican establishment. Not saying it would destroy them, but it's usually the establishment that picks the VP. Obama didn't want Biden. Biden didn't want Kamala. He was kind of stuck with her after he... Well, I think he said he... I don't know. I know he said he was going to pick a black woman for the Supreme Court. Did he actually say he was going to pick a black woman for VP? Or did you just say woman? Because I just heard something the other day that he actually wanted to pick Gretchen Whitmer, and Obama strong-armed him into her, apparently. Could you imagine? And that's another thing. So if they debated, they had a vice presidential debate between Tulsi and Kamala, that would be great. That would be well worth watching.
The future of our country is at risk, and we are the only ones that can save her. It's the Democrat elite and the permanent Washington establishment, the war machine made up of both Democrats and Republicans, who are abusing their power, undermining our God-given rights and freedoms enshrined in the Constitution, with one goal and objective in mind: protecting their power at any cost. Now, every member of Congress and the U.S. Senate, they all took an oath. Every time they are elected, they go back and take that oath again. It's the same oath that I took when I was elected to Congress in 2012. It's the same oath that I took when I enlisted in the Army back in 2003. That oath that says I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
You know, in about 2001, 2002, 2000... really by 2003 that had sailed, but there was a time where I was considering joining the military because my life was shit. And I probably should have. You know, I can't see where the shit, so they probably wouldn't have put me out in the field anyway. And I guess that's what my fear was. But it's like, either way, Tulsi had balls enough to sign on that dotted line, something I did not. And granted, being she's a woman, she, I assume, wasn't in combat, but still takes courage. She had more courage than I do.
The sad reality is that many of these very people who raised their right hand and said those words pose a direct domestic threat to the freedom of our country today. So we ask ourselves, how did this happen? How is it that we have people serving in the most powerful halls in this nation who are not only ignoring our Constitution, but taking actions directly to undermine it? Did they not actually read it? If they had, and don't take it for granted that they have, they would have recognized that our founders saw that power and liberty are natural enemies. They would have seen that our founders saw their most important task in framing our founding documents was to contain government power to protect individual liberty. Our founders understood that our unalienable rights and freedoms are not given to us by any government or individual. They are freedoms bestowed upon us by our Creator and are intrinsic to every single one of us. Our government's responsibility is to protect them. My first year in Congress was 2013. And around the time of Constitution Day, I got an email saying, hey, you're invited to come to the House floor to be a part of reading the Constitution into the congressional record. I thought, this is awesome. What a great tradition, so that year after year, we're reminded of that oath that we took and what it actually means. So I went down and participated in it. I didn't see very many of my Democrat colleagues there. And so later on, I went and talked to them, and I asked them, like, hey, this was really cool. I was stoked to be a part of this. Did you not get the email? The answer I got was quite condescending. They said, Tulsi, we know you're new here. You don't really quite get how this place works. We don't participate in that because that's a right-wing Republican thing. I was not only shocked, but pretty disheartened and saddened by that response. But now, as we look at their actions year after year and escalating, especially over these last few years, what they said is actually borne fruit. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the vision that our founders had for this country. They are so blinded by their hunger, this insatiable hunger for power, that they are putting their selfish interests above everything else. And they are launching this all-out assault on our God-given rights and freedoms. Something as simple as freedom of speech used to be something that most people from across party lines could agree was important. It's not the case anymore. We have the Democrat elite and their partners in the propaganda media and big tech who are threatened by a free people and a free society and doing all that they can to shut down our open marketplace of ideas, the public and virtual town squares, anywhere that we can debate our positions, sometimes with that fiery debate without fear of retribution or censorship. They're trying to take away our Second Amendment rights, our rights to defend ourselves and our loved ones, and our right to serve as a check on the power of a tyrannical government. They've made it very clear through the Biden-Harris administration that ATF is relentlessly trying to push rule after rule, circumventing the People's House in Congress to turn law-abiding gun owners like ourselves into criminals.
There you go. I like hearing that.
They are discriminating against people of faith, especially Christians, arresting peaceful pro-life protesters, trying to remove God from every facet of our public life, and as we are seeing most recently, bending over backward trying to placate pro-Hamas Islamist protesters, either because they are Islamist apologists themselves or they're afraid of being called Islamophobes, and turning a blind eye to the ever-escalating levels of anti-Semitic attacks. These Democrat elite continue to violate our Fourth Amendment rights, a right to privacy and...
So, I mean, you never know, but for example, they wouldn't give Bobby the opportunity to go head-to-head against Biden, so he left. He's running as an independent. He's not really shit on the Democratic Party much. Tulsi's exposing it. Like, theoretically, RFK could go right back onto the Democratic plantation and it'd be just fine. He's never really been welcomed with open arms anyway that I've ever heard of, but hey, he's still a candidate. He could slink on back. Tulsi, she's either a Republican or independent. I mean, I guess she could be libertarian, which would be kind of cool if she gave that movement some legitimacy. I mean, we need... They always say people who want to poo-poo the idea of more than two parties say, well, we don't want a parliamentary system that, we never have a majority. A majority never elects anybody, but it's like, we have 300-something million people in this country, and 80 of them voted for Biden, and he became president. 80-something. I don't know exactly, but that's not 150. So it's like a quarter of the population voted for Biden. So would a viable third party really skew those numbers that much? No, they would not. They would not.
Protection against warrantless search and surveillance, defending gross violations of our civil liberties by the secret FISA court in Section 702, supporting Department of Justice's weaponization of law enforcement against the Biden-Harris administration's political opponents. Now remember, during President Biden's inauguration speech, he promised to bring our country together, to be a president for all Americans, no matter who they voted for. And he promised to get us closer to peace. He has done the exact opposite on all fronts. The bottom line is this: a political party that is actively undermining our constitutional freedoms cannot be trusted, and we, the people, cannot allow them to remain in power. So as we head into this next election year, which is coming upon us very quickly, beware. Because we're dealing with people who have no respect for the rule of law, who will undermine it for their own political gain, and willing to do any...
Following politics is just a slightly more intelligent thing to follow than sports. This is not different. Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, left wing, right wing, it's all just teams. That's why I love the idea of Trump picking Tulsi Gabbard as VP, because I like what it could do for his election. He could put it to work and accomplish great things, but it would be a thumb in the eye of the Republican establishment. I've said before, I need a team. This is what I want. Having Vivek and Tulsi part of this administration can help bring about a new Republican Party. Or bring back the old Republican Party. Really new. I mean, there's no way. The momentum that this kind of movement could have, that's a new party. That's a new party. I encourage y'all to start a third one, somebody, by all means, but...
We should not be surprised if they declare new national emergencies that allow them to grab onto more power. We should not be surprised if they declare new unnecessary counterproductive wars of choice, whether cold wars or hot wars, to stoke fear and try to force us into submission, all in the name of national security. James Madison said, of all the enemies to public liberty, war is perhaps the most to be dreaded because it comprises and develops the germ of every other. He went on to say that no nation could preserve its freedom in the midst of continual warfare. He has been unfortunately proven right time and time again. Not just by the Democrat elite who are in power, but the Republican neocons as well. We've heard just recently how Nikki Haley wants to further suppress our First Amendment rights because of national security threats, she says. And when you look at how our constitutional rights and liberties are suppressed during these times of war, how easily these Republican and Democrat neocons so easily...
I kind of got get a special little feeling when conservative women go after the more liberal women. And not that even Tulsi's even all that more conservative per se than Nikki Haley is, but she definitely loves the country more. I'd bet my life on that.
Throw out do this or else national security. I saw this in Congress. I was served there for 8 years on the House Armed Services and Foreign Affairs committees and saw the abuses under the Patriot Act. So I introduced legislation to fix it. I worked with people like Congressman Tom Massey. We spoke out against these abuses, and guess what? On the House floor, Democrats and Republicans called us traitors. They said that by our actions to protect our civil liberties and argue we, the American people, should not choose between liberty and security, they said we were welcoming another 9/11-style terrorist attack.
Tulsi Gabbard could help direct the Trump administration, I would hope, would be able to push him gently into policies that, like I've tried to talk about, the things that we can all agree upon. Let's focus on those. We don't need any divisive issues to come up. I mean, the news media will make everything divisive as possible if Trump is president again. But if we can avoid that and focus on unity and getting things done that we can all agree on that are good for Americans, which is, I mean, part of the populist message, the MAGA message.
I am deeply concerned for our future if the Democrat elite, I don't care whose name fills in the blank, are allowed to remain in power. It's up to us to defend our country and defend our freedom. Who we vote for matters. Being involved in this process matters. Yes, there are flaws and it needs to be fixed, but we can't fix anything unless our voices are heard. We have to elect leaders who are committed to supporting and defending the Constitution, putting the interests and the needs of the American people above all else. We will defend our freedoms by exercising them. We can uphold and protect the truth by speaking the truth to those who reject it. Be not afraid. When we are motivated by love for our country, love for the Constitution, love and respect for each other as fellow Americans and children of God, we will find that courage to do what we must to protect our future, to get us back on track. This is how we save our country. Be not afraid. By God's grace, we are free and we will remain free. God bless you all. Thank you so much. God bless America. Aloha. Thank you.
Tulsi Gabbard, everybody. I've only got 10% left on my phone. I just got notification on. Tulsi Gabbard is my pick for Trump's VP, but that could change rather quickly because I've heard this lady saying that she's an insider for it. Bradley's okay. Apparently, she was on stage. She's a congresswoman. She was on stage in New Hampshire. Let's see what she had to say. Let's get to know her. Elise Stefanik. I have no idea where she's from.
Elise and Lee Zeldin.
ready to make history, New Hampshire? Are we ready to make America great
I mean,
again?
a woman helps generally, yes. I think there are
we
women
ready to elect President Donald
that
J.
would
Trump
stay
and fire
home
Joe Biden?
and maybe could convince
Yes,
the
we are. Thank you so much
vote
for
third
the warm
party
welcome.
or
Thank you for staying out
whoever
in
the
the
Democrats
cold.
put up there,
And I am just
if
so
it's not
honored to
Biden.
be here, and I'm proud to be the first member of Congress to endorse President Trump for re-election.
Really? I think let's have him.
And I'm excited to bring up my friend and our amazing, amazing former.
Let's find out if I can find out a little bit of information. If I can finish this podcast before my phone dies. New York. She's from New York. Maybe that's why Trump likes her. Okay. So, here's what we want. Here's what's going to be great for Trump. Tulsi Gabbard as VP. Vivek Ramaswamy, Chief of Staff. He cut the government in half. That's his job. The border, that's her job. The person who I wish was going to be the next president of the United States, he'll be our Secretary of Defense, Jocko Willick. Ted Cruz, you can find a senator to vote Republican in Texas. Maybe he comes over and he's your Attorney General. I like that idea. Possibly RFK as Attorney General, could be very interesting. He's got a lot of experience with that. His liberal bend, though, I'm not 100% how that would go over. But maybe he could be Surgeon General. I don't know if you actually have to be a doctor to be a Surgeon General. Maybe somebody could issue Bobby a honorary degree. So here's a little something from Jocko, and then we'll close up.
Discipline equals freedom. Episode 6, sitting here with Echo Charles. Blah, 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 blah. Words. Excuses. Why do we do that? I can tell you a big reason, a very prominent reason why we're making excuses, why we're blah, 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 blah. It's because of our ego. When something goes wrong, when we don't do what we're supposed to do, when we fail in terms of our discipline on a daily basis, when we fail, when we drop the ball, when we don't get it done, it hurts our ego to admit that it was us. So we use a bunch of words and a bunch of blah, 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 blah. And sometimes we blame inanimate objects, which is kind of comical and kind of ridiculous, right? People blame inanimate objects for their own shortfalls in life, okay? The donut somehow snuck into my mouth. Right?
Wouldn't you like to have a president who communicated like that? He's got so much gold out there. This is just the start of an episode. This isn't one of his cut. There's so much inspirational material that people have cut together and put the music of him online. It's worth a listen if you haven't checked it out. So that's all I have. I just talked a bunch of politics, and my phone's about to die. So I'm going to go. Please like and subscribe, follow me, do all the things. I appreciate it. Your time is valuable, and if you gave it to me, if you're to this point, God bless you. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.